The top three most important things in business or life are what, Rob? Or network, network, and network. Can you expand for me a little bit on how Aunt Dorothy taught you a valuable lesson in networking? And also explain to the audience why that name means so much to you.
Yeah. So I had this unbelievable aunt. Yeah. So she taught me a lesson. She said it forever. Your network, 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 your most three valuable things. The same thing they say about real estate, right? Location, location, location. And those two kind of go together. So I had this wonderful, crazy aunt, and I wasn't call her crazy. She was just a world track. Like she was just that woman, blue collar, she was a blue collar broad that just ripped cigs and just said it like it was, an old school Irish woman from the Northeast. So if you kind of understand what that is, there's no filter, just a loving of a life, had a cocktail and a cigarette in her hand constantly. And she told great stories, and she was really tied in with the community, with politics, with youth sports. She supported high school sports in our community. And she never had kids, so I became kind of her kid. And we always lived like on the same street. So she was kind of
Yeah.
like a grandparent or another parent to me. And she would always have these big political parties and fundraisers at her house. And she was always the one that people called to raise funds because she was connected.
Hmm.
And she was connected because she pushed her weight around. She never asked anybody for anything. She was the connector. She brought people together, made them feel special, always a good time. And that was such a valuable lesson watching her do that, knowing that, hey, if something, you need something, right? You need something done, whether it was approval for, a permit to put a pool in your backyard, or if you need to kind of, throw your weight around, or if you need something else, you call on Doc. And she always got you to that person. Right? Somehow she got things done. It was only because of her kindness and the value that she brought to other people. Constantly, always have people over our house for pool parties and Christmas, and just this random group of people constantly coming through her door. She would do these dinner parties every Friday night nonstop. Always. As long as she was in town, she had a dinner party with just a group and mix of people. I learned later on in life that you put some stakeholders together, whether if you're a business and it's a sponsor or a media partner or a community outreach partner. It doesn't matter. You put those groups of people together around the table and you close your mouth and you just let them introduce themselves, see the magic that happens. They start building relationships. And next thing you know, great things happen, right? You're not coming together and saying, hey, I got this package I'm going to sell you. You're bringing people together, showing them some value, and you just let the natural conversation go. That's your network, right? Your network is always about the value that you bring to other people. It's so cliche now, but Aunt Dot knew it back in the 60s and 70s. She was a master of it. And I learned a big lesson from her. For me, that was always been my approach, in business and life. And
Yeah.
it's natural because I watched other people do it.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, that quote was from this book, which I read.
There you go.
Great job playbook. Great.
Thank you.
It was a good read.
Yeah.
Another quote actually from the book is one one of those once in a lifetime characters who had an incredible impact on you both professionally and personally. Could if you could relive one moment with Tommy Groom, one
Oh, man.
conversation, one lesson, one experience that defines who he was to you, what would it be and why does it still resonate with you today?
Oof. Well, you can make me cry in this one. So for those in the industry, especially if you're a college football, who Tommy Groom was. He was a legend, a recruiter, a guy that bounced around forever, and he's just a magical guy. And he had this saying when I was young. So I found him when I was in my late 20s working for the NFL, and he had this credibility. He was a gentleman from Charleston, West Virginia, Southern accent, looked just like Leslie Nielsen. He had these great sayings and this great view on life. And Tommy always, his famous line was, you can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been. And that's a quote in the book. And anybody that was around Tommy would always say, Tommy, what's that quote you say? And he would say to me, whenever I was going down that road of being that kind of 20 something year old who I think I'd figured it out. Here I am thinking who I was working for the NFL, doing all these things with NFL flag and promoting the game and having him with me. And he always kind of calm me down. He would say, you can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been. Basically means you don't know anything. Like just experience life. If you don't know what is going to happen if you've never been there before. Like if you haven't, it's easy to make fun or kind of talk about parents if you haven't been a parent. Like if you're in the sports industry or you're a coach or you're an administrator, but you don't have any parents, but you're talking about how the people are parenting their kids, you shouldn't be talking about that. Like, or if you're just start working in an organization and you're kind of saying about your boss or the boss's boss, boy, we should be doing that. And you haven't been there before. Like you haven't earned it
Yep.
yet. So Tommy Groom taught me a valuable lesson in life. You can no more do what you don't know to come back from where you ain't never been. And it's a life lesson for everybody just starting off, especially in your 20s. Like just settle down,
Yeah.
experience life, get married or do your thing, have children, right? Do the things that you need to do to experience life and taking care of people and what you're here for, right? So that's the biggest life lesson I ever had. Him and my aunt died. I wish they met because those two characters would have been like a freaking sitcom.
That would be
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, would have been fantastic. She was long gone before he came in, but man, it would have been great.
He also said, "Best place I've ever worked is wherever I'm at." What does that mean?
Yeah, so I used to because he was a college football coach. So he'd be at a place for 5 years, 8 years, 3 years. And I asked him one time, I was just trying to figure this whole thing out. And I said, Tommy, where was the best place? What was the best school and the best place you ever coached? He looked over at me with that southern grin and he just said, wherever I was at, that was the best place. And I think people lose track of that because they're always focused on that next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Tommy was a guy, you hear the saying, be where your feet are. No one focused more in life than where he was at that moment. It was Tommy. It was an incredible gift. And he focused on the people around him. He focused on the moment. And he always said, if you go into that attitude, this is the best place I ever been. Now he says, now the wives might not have thought that, but I thought it. And when you say it all the time, he would always say, keep the fires burning. And inside, he may have been like, oh man, a little struggling, but externally, he's a leader. He was a coach. He was a mentor. When you come into a situation, you're negative. This place stinks, right? Oh, the brain, I don't make enough money. I don't know this. Leave. It's over. Like, stop. It's done. Like, make it the best place you've ever been is right now, right? You decided to work there. You decided to start that business. You chose that college. Make it the best because it doesn't ever change. Every place you'll ever be will always have an issue. There's always going to be something, right? Life is about 20%. 20% of your day is going to be incredible. 80% is going to be challenging. And you know what? That's what God intended to be. That's what life is. It's one big challenge. So make it the best place you ever was and ever are right now. And that's the secret to it. That's the secret to your career. No one likes a negative Nancy. No one likes someone that gossips, right? Those people that gossip that are negative never grow in a company. They never become the vice presidents. They never become the leaders. They never become the supervisors, right? They just have to go on to the next job and take their negativity with them. And they'll fool people for a little while because they're smart and they say the right thing or they look good in a suit, right? And then they look the part, and then all of a sudden you start peeling back the layers, and you're like, oh, this person's just negative, right?
Yep.
They're just too arrogant. They're negative. They don't want to work for it. Make it the best place.